Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am going to be talking about the book A Creative Act by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin is a producer. He has helped a ton of really big name artists become the most creative and interesting versions of themselves. I think what's interesting about Rick Rubin is that I believe that in his story, like he didn't have like a ton of technical knowledge. I think he just really was the checkbook for a lot of artists. But then eventually he learned how to become really valuable inside of the music studio with artists because he was able to teach them how to create like really interesting and cool art. And artists credit him for being able to make them the best versions, the best artistic versions of themselves. So that's why Rick Rubin is really cool and why I was really interested in reading his book, A Creative Act. And so I started the book and I really am only like 30 pages in and I'm already getting such awesome gems. So I wanted to talk about a chapter that he has, and it's called Everyone is a Creator. And I have some tarot cards that I feel like energetically the message ties to really well. So the first quote is, to create is to bring something into existence that wasn't there before. It could be a conversation, the solution to a problem, a note to a friend, and the rearrangement of furniture in a room, a new route home to avoid a traffic jam. So basically he is saying that like living your life, just living your regular ordinary life is a creative act in general and in a form of artistic expression. I think that's really interesting because when you think of art, you typically think of the modalities. You think of painting, you think of drawing, being a writer, things like that. And I think just speaking for myself, I went a large part of my life trying to figure out like, why am I not good at anything? Like, why am I not an artist? Especially because like my grandfather was a sculptor and a painter, rest in peace. But my parents have a whole room dedicated to just like all of the beautiful art that he's created. And I have other family members that do music or all types of other stuff, drawing and painting. And so I always walked through life like feeling like an imposter because I'm just like, wow, like I'm one of the only people in my family that don't know how to create art. So when he says that like existing is a form of artistic expression itself, it is really empowering. It makes you feel like, wow, like, okay, so I am an artist. And I think like when we talk about the act of existing as a form of creation, people typically think of it as like, oh, I create my reality in the whole world of manifestation. But I think that that's almost looking at it at a surface level way, because it's like I create my reality and everything that's happening around me is due to my thoughts and feelings and stuff. And while that is true, it doesn't empower you to feel like, wow, like when I get up in the morning, when I talk to someone, like every single thing that you're doing is a form of art, is a form of creation. When people think of manifestation, they feel like they have to have something tangible on the other side. Like in order for me to feel like this magician and master manifester, I have to have something tangible from it that I really intentionally asked for. Like I asked for a car, I asked for a house. And if I don't get it, then I didn't manifest it and I didn't create it and I didn't create my reality. What he is saying is that, look, just you talking, you getting out of bed, you are creating something because it didn't exist before. And again, like it's really empowering, but it gives you this energy of being that alchemist. But on top of that, like there's something about it that feels really romantic. When I was thinking about this quote and living life as a form of creation, it made me think of The Lovers. Like, first of all, the whole idea of The Lovers is that divine masculine feminine union that leads to creation. Just when you think of men and women and them having like a romantic relationship and having sex, from that typically comes a child. And so that is its own form of alchemy. That is its own form of creation. And I think like when you think of existing and how it could be its own form of art, it makes you feel so much more connected to the idea of existing. It's like, okay, well, if every single thing that I do can be a form of art, then I want to do it more intentionally. When you're making art, you typically go into it with the mindset of, I want something beautiful to come out of this, whether or not it's made from you having mistakes or you drawing something the wrong way or you using the wrong colors. You still have the opportunity of creating something beautiful outside of it. So I think the idea of art in general is romantic. Like, you want to create something beautiful and you want something wonderful and loving and something interesting to come out of it from the other side. When you think of the whole movement of romanticizing life, you have to understand, like, most of it is about doing things so much more intentionally. It is about washing your face and being intentional and using all of these different products and putting on clothing that you love and presenting yourself in a way that feels like you care about yourself and you love yourself. And I think that is also a form of art. When you think of people that, you know, put on makeup and people that dress a particular way, like, that is fashion. And makeup, they call it a makeup artist. It is about how are you presenting yourself inside of reality that feels really intentional. That is also connected to the idea of existing as being a creative act. The other quote that I read was, regardless of whether or not you're formally making art, we are all living as artists. We perceive, filter, and collect data, then curate an experience for ourselves and others based on this information set. Whether we do this consciously or unconsciously, by the mere fact of being alive, we are active participants in the ongoing process of creation. It's interesting just thinking about this idea of we receive information and we receive data, and from that we act accordingly. We read something and then we do something. Or even just like the whole idea of inhaling and exhaling. You inhale H2O and you breathe out CO2. There's just this alchemist type of energy that comes with that. It is not just about the idea of creation, but intentional creation, which makes me think about the sun. I think that when you are being intentional about living your life and creating, you can, if you're just focusing on the idea of existing being a creative act versus whether or not you're doing it the right way or the wrong way, that is how you create a life that feels so much more intentional and authentic to you. I think when it comes to the sun card, it has like the child that is on the horse, and the concept of the sun card is really just this energy of, I'm just living my life and I'm having a good time and I'm in the moment and I'm feeling really authentic, and I'm not caring about if I'm doing it the right way or if I'm breaking any rules. Like, as you see the naked child, like, if any of you have children, you understand that children are kind of just like going around doing their own thing. Like, they're not paying attention to whether or not people are judging them or whether or not people are going to say something to them about what they're doing. They're really just living a life of self-discovery. And that's the beauty of living a intentional life that feels like a creative act, is this idea of self-discovery as a creative act as well. I'm existing, but as I'm existing, I'm trying to figure out what works. That's also what artists do, is they're constantly trying to figure out like new and innovative and interesting ways to create art and to make a statement and to express themselves. If we look at our lives as a form of I think if we look at our lives and existing in general as an artistic expression, there's a lot of really good parallels that you could take and really apply it to your own life. How can I make my life more interesting? How can I do things that are coming from a place of wonder and coming from a place of, well, I'm going to allow myself to be vulnerable so that I can make sure that I'm being authentic. When I was thinking about that, I also was thinking about just like the idea of the fool, right? The fool is just he's just like, look, like, I'm just on this self-discovery journey. I'm on a journey to figure out, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay. I am just trying to figure out, what can I do to make me feel authentically myself? What can I do to make me feel like I'm expressing myself in a way that feels beautiful, that feels romantic, that feels like art? And that kind of makes me think about the post that I made called "You Find Magic Where You Look for It." And I feel like I've referenced that post a lot, but it's because it just has such awesome and great messages to it, and is such a great way to look at life. And that's just this idea of looking at life with wonder. Like, if you're looking at life as if you don't know, it's like, I don't know everything about life. None of us do. But what's the wonderful part about it, and the cool part about it, is that I can continue to discover. I can continue to go on this self-discovery journey because I don't know. Nobody knows. And I can romanticize it, and I can make it art, and I can make my life art, because as I am doing, as I'm existing, as long as I'm breathing, I am creating. And not only am I creating, but I'm creating art. And I also want to call out something that he said earlier in the book, which was that the spiritual world has no limitations. And while the physical world has a ton of limits and limitations. So if you think about all of this concept of like expressing yourself and being creative, if you only look at those modalities as a way of being able to express yourself, then it actually is very limiting to the idea of spirituality and consciousness. If you want to allow yourself to be limitless in terms of being creative and being artistic, then you have to allow for all parts of your life to feel like art. That's one way that you can take away some of the boundaries of being an artist in general. And I'll continue to post about some of the learnings that I have as I'm reading the book. And I'll keep you guys posted. I'll check you next time. Bye.